Welcome back to the news today. U.S. President Barack Obama delivered his final State of the Union address to Congress last night, in which he stressed that America was not in economic decline nor getting weaker on the international stage. He also laid out policy goals for his last year in office. Eli Ochenberg, diplomatic correspondent for the News Today, reports.
The President of the United States.
Tonight marks the 8th year that I've come here to report on the State of the Union. For this final one, I'm going to try to make it a little shorter.
7 years after America was swept by the winds of change, U.S. President Barack Obama has returned to being the face of hope. In his final State of the Union speech, Obama seems to have been once again glowing with all his glory and all promises.
I will keep working to shut down the prison at Guantanamo. It is expensive, it is unnecessary, and it only serves as a recruitment brochure for our enemies.
The enemies of the U.S. were a main topic in Obama's message, which sought to undermine fear and reassert security.
As we focus on destroying ISIL, over-the-top claims that this is World War III just play into their hands. They pose an enormous danger to civilians. They have to be stopped, but they do not threaten our national existence.
But it was another frenemy of Washington which was at the center of attention, as at the same time Obama was on podium hailing the nuclear deal he pushed for with Iran. A naval incident in which Iran detained American sailors was underway, yet left unmentioned. What was also disregarded completely was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and what maybe symbolized more than anything else that his administration has let go of the issue. But soon there will be a new administration with a new head, and the reigning president didn't spare his own thoughts on the intensifying race.
When politicians insult Muslims, whether abroad or our fellow citizens, when a mosque is vandalized or a kid is called names, that doesn't make us safer. It's just wrong. It diminishes us in the eyes of the world. It makes it harder to achieve our goals. It betrays who we are as a country.
By next year, it will be a different president making his way to the iconic podium, and Barack Obama will return to being an American citizen. After 7 years, even the biggest cynics might admit that last night in Washington, there was a sense of closure, maybe even pride, in the leading nation of the free world.
And joining me right now is Michael Oren, Knesset member for the Kulanu Party and former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy. Good to be with you.
Always good to have you here. So you heard that Barack Obama giving his statement.
I did.
And some people are saying that maybe it was the best speech that he gave in the last 7 years.
It could be. Listen, I went to a lot of them, and the State of the Union address is always a lot of pomp. It's a lot of ceremony. There's a procession. All the diplomats walk in. All the generals of the general staff walk in. The Supreme Court justices parade in. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance. And Obama's a great speaker. But in past years, he's always set out some plans that seem not quite realistic. There was going to be higher education for everybody in America. I remember 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2015. There were all these different goals because the State of the Union is like that. I think it was a much more personal speech. I think he gave his vision. He talked about what he accomplished. He talked less about what he did not accomplish. For example, he didn't talk about Israelis and Palestinians. But he also set out what he's going to do in the next year. And next year is a very powerful year for a president in his second term. The last year of a second-term president, he doesn't have to worry about being reelected. And it's all about the legacy.
It's all about his own legacy. But
yes.
Didn't he... You know, I'm looking at him, and I'm looking what he did in the last 7 years, and I'm asking myself, you know, maybe he will be remembered as the president that decided to take America out from the world and decided to just take care of the United States.
So he would take issue with that. I mean, a big theme in his speech. A big theme in his speech last night was America's still the leading superpower in the world. When there are conflicts in the region or conflicts around the world, people still go to the United States for mediation. I think many people in our area of the world would take issue with that. I know that Iran and Saudi Arabia now at loggerheads, and who do they turn to? They turn to the Germans, they turn to the Russians. Not everybody's turning to the United States, but that's the way that Obama presented it. What is interesting about this president, Lucy, and I have accompanied his administration now since the first day in office, is the degree to which the president is consistent. He is in his inauguration address in 2009, he talked about closing the Guantanamo facility.
Yes.
What did he talk about last night? I'm going to close the Guantanamo facility. He talked about gay rights. He talked about outreach to the Muslim world. He talked about Iran last night. Very consistent. I still think he's going to do something on gun control, and he's going to do something on immigration reform.
He didn't mention Donald Trump. He mentioned like the subtext was, and the subtext was maybe also about Israel and the Palestinians, but he didn't mention Israel and the Palestinians.
No.
And I'm asking myself, is he really just decided to give up on Israel and the Palestinians and said, you know what, that's it? Or the personal relationship is that bad with Benjamin Netanyahu? Or really, he just doesn't care?
I think that he has reached the point that he's not going to invest any more capital. Again, a year, I said, is a long time, but if you're going to have a peace process that's going to last a year and a half, it's not a very long time. He's not going to initiate anything. That's what he said. But that does not mean that he will not support initiatives by other countries. And there is a French initiative that's pending in the Security Council. There's a New Zealand initiative. And no one's saying what the United States is going to veto that at all. A lot of it depends on the way the resolution is framed. And if Palestinian diplomats are smart, they can frame it in a way that the United States wouldn't object to it.
Let's talk a little bit about the nuclear program and the nuclear accord with Iran. Yesterday, it came just as a bad time when the sailors were caught. And it seems that he couldn't just, like, let's say, praise the accord too much because of just what just happened.
Right.
At the end of the day, do you think that he will look back and he will say it was a mistake?
No. I do not.
Really?
I don't think that. First of all, I don't think he has that general tendency, and many leaders do not have that tendency to say I made a mistake. How many leaders in the world actually say that they made a mistake? I think if the agreement collapses, if Iran emerges 10, 15 years from now as a nuclear power, the president may look back and say, "Look, I gave the world 10, 15 years, and that's more than you would have had if it weren't for the agreement." For Israel, it's still going to be a problem because this regime is very strong. In 2009, going back to 2009, the Iranian regime had a dry run for the Arab Spring. It was called the Green Revolution. They learned how to crush it really quickly. And now they have a 1 million-man army that can crush anybody who raises their heads up against the regime. The chance of this regime being in place 10, 15 years from now is very good.
If we were looking at the United States like in 10, 15 years, and we would remember Barack Obama as the last president that, you know what, in 4 years, after a new president will be elected, how will we remember Barack Obama? I
think history looks at presidents in very different ways. You know that Harry Truman was considered a terrible president in his day. Today, he's considered one of the great presidents of his time. I think that Obama may be considered what he aspired to be, which was a transformative president, something that was going to change America both in terms of its foreign policy as well as its domestic situations, whether it be Obamacare, gay rights. If he does move ahead on gun control, if he does move on immigration reform, that will be transformative. In terms of America's position in the world, I think you'll agree with me. It has been transformed. Not everybody in the world greets and welcomes and cheers that transformation. We sort of miss the America that was the adult in the room, the policeman of the world. We do. But,
I have one last question. Some people are saying that this speech was really genuine. He really believes in what he is saying.
You seem skeptical. Why is I saw that face.
Skeptical.
Okay.
If we need to put it like in numbers, how much do you think in his term he was a politician and how much he was genuine? We saw the real Barack Obama.
It's interesting. What the real Barack Obama is not that important. I don't think he was a successful politician insofar as he got elected and he ran very good campaigns. He was not a successful politician, and he says this. That he said it in his speech. He did not succeed in reaching across the aisle. He wasn't Roosevelt. He wasn't Lincoln. He couldn't reach across the aisle and get the Republicans to join him. And actually, I thought it was rather admirably he took responsibility, at least partial responsibility for that. If there's anything I know about this president, okay, and I don't pretend to know everything about this president, was that he is not lacking for candor. He was always very open about the things. I was following him very closely about what he thought about the Middle East, what he thought about the Arab world, what he thought about Israel and our conflict with the Palestinians. He was open starting in 2008 when I started following him, just what his positions were going to be, and those positions have not changed. And that is amazing, the degree to which he was very open and remained very consistent.
So we can say that the people who were surprised that Barack Obama is treating some people in a certain way shouldn't have been surprised.
I wasn't surprised. All they had to do was look at his speeches and read his books, and I think they'd be a lot less surprised. People actually don't read these things.
Yes,
unfortunately. One of the things he suffered was he was such a great speaker that people actually didn't listen to what he said.
Because he knows how to say the words.
Very well.
Michael Oren, always
Always
a pleasure.
to be with you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye, Lucy.